Here in just 30 seconds or so, we'll hear a call out that Falcon 9 is in startup. It means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. At T-minus 2 seconds, the Merlin engines will light and liftoff will be commanded to the vehicle at T-minus 0. So right now, as we approach the T-minus 1 minute mark, the Starlink payload and the Planet payloads continue to look healthy. Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. Weather continues to look good, and the range is green for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Stage 2, press for flight.
LDs go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Okay, so we're in the final phases of the countdown. Let's watch as Falcon 9 takes
T-minus 15 seconds.
Starlink satellites and 3 Planet SkySats into orbit.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition and liftoff for the Falcon 9. Go Starlink.
Stage 1, propulsion download.
A successful liftoff of Falcon 9 from Space Launch Complex 40 for this 11th Starlink mission. The 3 Planet SkySats and our 58 Starlink satellites are on their way to space. In about 10 seconds, we will be approaching max Q. Merlin engines are now throttling down as they anticipate the moment of greatest aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
All right, we just went through max Q, and the vehicle is now supersonic, and Merlin engines have throttled back up. So coming up in about a minute, we'll have 3 events happening back to back. First will be main engine cutoff, or MECO. This is where all 9 Merlin engines will shut off to slow the vehicle down in preparation for the second event, stage separation. This is where the first stage separates from the second stage, with stage 1 starting to make its way back to Earth for landing, while second stage will kick off the third event in this sequence, SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1. This is where that Merlin vacuum engine will ignite and begin to propel the second stage along with our payloads into orbit. Main engine cutoff coming up in about 20 seconds. Everything continuing to look nominal for stage 1.
We have MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
And impact ignition.
All right, so there we saw those 3 events all happen in quick succession. Stage 1 is now making its way back to Earth. There on the left-hand side of your screen, we can see the grid fins slowly deploying. And on the right-hand side of your screen, the Merlin vacuum engine beginning to develop that healthy orange glow as it continues its journey on to orbit.
Fairing separation confirmed.
We're just a few seconds away from fairing deployment. There we go, visual confirmation of fairing deployment. Once again, as a reminder, we flew those fairings on a previous Starlink mission in January earlier this year. So with that, we have successfully reused this fairing pair. Like I said earlier, we will be attempting to catch those fairing halves with our recovery ships, Ms. Tree and Ms. Chief. Second stage continuing nominally. Now at 1.5 Gs for acceleration. And 10 seconds away now from the beginning of that entry burn. Again, this is the first of 2 burns intended to slow the vehicle's velocity
Stage
down
1
as it
FTS is
re-enters the
saved.
Earth's atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there we can see that the entry burn has begun and will last for about 20 seconds.
Stage 2 continues on nominal trajectory.
Again, this burn utilizes 3 engines at the base of the rocket. And
Stage
there
1
we
entry
can
burn
see the
shutdown.
entry burn has concluded. Second stage trajectory is still looking nominal. And in less than a minute, we will see the first stage on the left-hand side of the screen perform its landing burn. Looking back at our second stage, everything continues to look good. Once again, we are carrying 58 Starlink satellites prepared to join the over 600 Starlink satellites that are already on
Stage 1
orbit,
transonic.
as well as 3 rideshare satellites for our customer planets. Those 3 SkySats will join the 18 SkySats that are already also on orbit. We're about 15 seconds away from landing burn.
Terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And landing burn has begun. You should see the
Stage
plume
2
from the
FTS is
rocket
saved.
appear on the screen here.
Stage
in
1
a
landing
second.
leg deploy.
Our touchdown and shut off. Successful
Stage 1
landing
confirmed.
of the first stage booster. Once again, this is the 6th time that we have utilized this booster on a mission, also marking its 6th landing. This is the Of Course I Still Love You drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. So turning our attention back to second stage, we've had
Nominal orbit
confirmation
insertion.
of second engine cutoff, or SECO 1. And we also have confirmation of a good
Useful
orbit.
acquisition of
So
signal.
now that stage 2 is going to coast in this orbit for another 3.5 minutes, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back at T plus 12 minutes for the deployment of Planet's 3 SkySats. Welcome back to the webcast for this 11th Starlink mission. We had an on-time liftoff from Cape Canaveral, and everything is looking nominal for our second stage. As we can see on our screen there, the stack of payloads. We are carrying 58 Starlink satellites, as well as 3 rideshare satellites for our customer planet. We're about 10 seconds away from the first of 3 deployments for those Planet SkySats.
SkySat 21 deploy confirmed.
Okay, deployment confirmed for that first SkySat. The first of 3 this morning. And there on your screen, at the end of the stack, slowly making its way away from the second stage, we can see that first SkySat moving along.
SkySat 20 deploy confirmed.
And confirmation that the second SkySat has deployed. We'll see that here momentarily. There it is at the end of the stack again. And awaiting the third and final deployment for this rideshare customer.
And SkySat 19 deploy confirmed.
And deployment confirmed for that third and final SkySat for our customer planet. These 3 SkySats will be joining 18 already on orbit, which will complete the fleet of 21 and make it the largest high-resolution fleet of satellites in orbit to date. Like I mentioned before, they'll be capable of imaging a single location up to 12 times a day. Right now, Stage 2 is going to continue to coast in this orbit for a few more minutes. During this time, it will start to spin along its central axis, which will give those Starlink satellites the momentum they require to space themselves out over time after deployment at T plus 46 minutes. So right now, we're going to take a break, but stay tuned because we'll be back at T plus 45 minutes in preparation for the deployment of those 58 Starlink satellites. Stay with us. Welcome back to the webcast for our 11th Starlink mission. We had an on-time liftoff at 10:31 a.m. Eastern Time from Cape Canaveral, Florida, for a 6th mission for this particular first stage. We landed it successfully on our drone ship. And there, as you can see on your screen, we successfully caught one of the fairing halves. That is a recovery vessel, Ms. Tree, caught that out of the air. The second fairing half made a soft water landing, so Ms. Chief is en route to scoop it out of the ocean. And before we went for a break, we saw the successful deployment of the 3 SkySat satellites for our customer planet, which were ride-sharing along with Starlink. These 3 SkySats will be joining the 18 already on orbit and will complete Planet's fleet of 21 satellites and make it the largest high-resolution fleet of satellites in orbit to date. So here in just a couple of seconds, we will be deploying our 58 Starlink satellites, which will be joining the nearly 600 that are on orbit. Now, there is a chance, and it looks like, I was just going to say that
Starlink tension rod separation confirmed.
we have an expected loss of signal over our ground station. There we go. We can see the visual confirmation of Starlink deployment. Like I said before, those 58 Starlinks will be joining 600 that are already on orbit. And shortly, they will be deploying their solar arrays. Over the next few days and weeks, they will distance themselves out using the momentum created by the second stage.
Maneuver complete.
Like I said, we spun it along its central axis to provide the momentum required for those satellites to space out, as you can see there. So they'll be using their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their operational orbit of 550 kilometers above Earth, and we'll begin to start beaming down high-speed internet to us Earthlings.